I hate this shit. Alright, I guess we're streaming and just not recording the video. I'll have to hope that
You're not on YouTube either.
It's coming back. I had to close the program. There's an order that you have to start everything up in and everything like you can't just pop in the middle of it.
Sabotage from the UK, bro.
Oh my god. Oh, what was that? So there was a point I was making. Oh, so yeah, just real quick on the point I was saying in the last video is as far as there ever being a conservative culture, I've given up all hope because it's become completely apparent that any of the characters that would be creative enough to create a culture for conservatives are not going to be accepted socially within conservative circles. So everyone can talk about Andrew Breitbart saying politics is downstream from culture, and they can continue having their liberal culture because there won't be a conservative one. So that was
Michael E. Jones.
That was my point. What about him?
He could lead it.
He's gonna make movies and music and entertainment.
He's made. I think he made an album before.
Maybe, but I mean, that's like that. The thing I'm saying is basically you have a ton of commentators saying we need a conservative culture, but anyone who is creative or artistic enough ends up exiled. Look at Owen Benjamin. Owen Benjamin is.
We're in there.
Look at Milo.
We're in the realm of the individual now, anyway, aren't we? It's all about, like as Owen says, it's all about the I, the iPhone, the iPad. It's all about the I.
Well, and that's
really hard to get everyone on the same page.
That's the other problem too, where even
it's all about tolerance and just accepting whatever now.
Well, and even I'd shown a thing where what's his name? Dave Rubin was talking to some libertarian guy, and he was basically saying, libertarians especially, but this still is, the same about conservatives and right-leaning people, is any group that is built upon a principle of individualism, it will automatically be hard to make a group out of people that are, by default, weary of groups. But, no, I was just saying the thing is, I had seen people online complaining about wanting to start a podcast and, no one being willing to do interviews or support them and stuff like that. I told them it's the prestige economy thing. Like, there was a point in time where I was talking to Candace Owens fairly regularly when she was on InfoWars and stuff like that. But then she wanted to be part of the prestige economy, and now she doesn't. She's not doing that interview with me that she said she would. She isn't even going back on InfoWars. And it's like, there's two worlds, and it's like, I just, more and more, I basically see the conservatives mirroring the left. There is no difference. Like, and it's not, like, and I don't even mean on the, it's two sides of the same coin, right and left, this and that. I'm talking about mirroring in the fact of, like, on the left you have basically the old school and the new school, and they're at odds with each other, so they can't accomplish anything. Like, the Nancy Pelosi is beefing with AOC, you have the old school corporatist Democrats and the new school progressive intersectional whatever coalition. But then on the right, you also have this old school neocon Zionist, Israel first conservative faction, and then you have the new school, and they are at such odds with each other that they can't accomplish anything, and it really just neutralizes both sides. And what's going to pop up in the middle of that, only God knows. But there's internal conflicts in both parties, and it's just like I said, all these people may want to talk all day long about culture and we need a culture and this and that, but anyone that would be creative enough to create a culture, well, they're going to be too outlandish or too, controversial for mainstream approval or acceptance.
There's so much choice now, though. Like with the internet, it's just such an unbelievable choice. Because when I was a kid, it's just 3 TV stations for an aerial, and that was your lot.
Yeah.
And like I remember, like when I first got into the city, so I grew up in a village. Like I used to raid like secondhand music shops, just kind of like any kind of music books or music magazines. just to see those like guitarists, like whoever it might be, like Steve Vai or Satriani, and that's how you would find stuff. But now everything's just so like instant and just there.
Yeah.
You can just be in that cocoon now. It's literally, as much as I love all this choice and all this stuff, you realize just how it does draw everyone into their own little cocoon individualism. It's going to be hard to bring them all back into that.
Yeah.
Because like even if you weren't really that interested in like I know it's a shit example, but a particular guitarist, because it's the only thing in that second-hand shop, you're like, oh, give that a go.
Yeah.
Just blues guitars to go. And it's probably the same. It's not just music. It's going to be everything. Like when you hang out.
No,
with
actually,
people,
you know.
willing to listen to them, willing to hang out, but now you don't need to because you can just go back into that cocoon.
But you know that actually reminds me. I saw
people are so different, so into their own cocoon. It's going to be difficult for people to actually find people like them because there is that much choice.
Yeah. Well, you know the other thing.
If you just got free TV stations, like there's a 1 in 3 chance that we're going to be like watching the same stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, I saw a study recently where I forget what it was. They did some sort of controlled study with giving out T-shirts, and they had one group where they said, you'll be given a green shirt. You only get the green shirt. Green is the only option. And they were just happy to be getting a free T-shirt.
Yeah, but when you get other choices, you start thinking, oh, what?
Yeah.
Yup.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. They had another group, and they said, you get to choose between the orange or the green.
You're not satisfied now.
Yeah.
Pick the bloody purple. Why did I pick the purple, Jamie?
Yeah. Yep. And once the group they gave a choice to ended up regretting not choosing the other. So you're right, it is a less is more thing where it's like the more options you have, you know, it just sort of damns you because then you get lost in that. But yeah, my initial tear, I don't know if you caught the bit I was saying. Have you seen Owen Benjamin's stuff this week? Him beefing with Nick.
Great, kid.
Him beefing with Nick Fuentes.
Great, kid.
Oh man, it's pretty.
But the thing is, right?
It's so professional wrestling, like.
It's not really. I think what it is just Owen Benjamin's just digressed from what he is, which is a comedian, a hardcore comedian, and what he's doing is just him talking in the backyard. I don't understand why it's being taken out of context. It's just a dude at the moment talking in his backyard.
Yeah. Well, see,
that's it.
But the thing is like, I don't know if you know the whole backstory. It was I watched Nick.
Owen like went over the top, but it's still just Owen in his backyard.
Yeah.
So, you know,
but I just
in your backyard, you're gonna talk shit. I mean, I think that's it.
Yeah, but the thing is like the catalyst of it all is like, this is why I'm saying it's like professional wrestling. Like, Nick Fuentes didn't say anything. Like, Nick Fuentes was just a little.
It was mildly insulting, I guess.
He was dismissive, if anything. He just said, you know, me and Owen don't agree on everything, but yeah, we'll have Vincent set it up, and you know, we can talk. And then Owen just goes, well, debate me about the moon landing, debate me about nukes. They're like just going overboard. And it's like, as Nick even said, Nick is like, I don't even care about the moon. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and that's the problem with Owen at this point, where it's like, when someone just is blasé about you, and then you fly off the like, this is the thing that troubled me about it, Paul, is now when people are posting these articles like, alt-right Owen Benjamin, what happened in his downward spiral, it legitimizes and justifies all of the craziness that people had been saying about him for months, when someone who doesn't even have an issue with him and it's just sort of like, yeah, we can talk whatever about it, you know, we'll set it up at some, like it wasn't even him being like, oh, Owen's crazy, Owen thinks that but Owen's assumptions that that's what it all meant just flew him off the rails. And Nick was just like, very calmly was like, this is about his wounded ego. Like, he's mad at me that I say N-word instead of saying nigger because I want to keep my super chats. I don't want to have to use a P.O. box. I like it this easy way. So yeah, I'll make an adjustment. I'll play by the rules. He's just mad that everyone else isn't kamikazeing their channel into oblivion with him. And it's like I love Owen, but it's when it's put out in that perspective, it really is like Owen is basically putting this standard where
it might be a bit much dedicating the whole podcast to it.
No, I don't plan on dedicating a whole podcast to it.
No, I meant that's what Owen did.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm
So I mean,
saying.
that probably is like you could mention it, bring it up, do your WWE face off, but dedicating a whole 2 hour podcast to it
Yeah.
might have been a bit.
And when Nick responds so calmly to it, like I was saying, it does make Owen seem unstable. But the thing that, Nick is saying is it's a wounded ego. It's someone who was at a top point, and he may be, happier, more fulfilled in life, but it's coming with hurdles left and right. I mean, he's getting super chats and PO boxes, and then lashing out at other people.
I love him.
I love him too. I love him too, but I'm just saying, like, don't start a fight with someone just because, like, as Nick said, they don't want to run their channel into the ground right along with you. Like, if it's really just, like, you're getting pissed because he says N-word, because it's like, all right, we're on YouTube, let's play by YouTube's rules, or you can do the Owen Benjamin route. Like, okay, just because... I mean, again, it's a squabble over whether he says N-word or nigger, and this is what this whole 2-hour fiasco is about. It's like, come on. But it's sad on the other hand, because like I was saying, Owen Benjamin is someone that could actually create a pro-America, conservative, cultural, he can create comedy. But instead he's in this position, and everyone else, I'm not saying,
it is sad though, because it's been like I do it as well. It's been like a massive blowout, like Alex Jones blowout, Crowder blowout, Joe Rogan blowout. Who else has he had on with?
And now he's had the blowout with Nick, and it's like you see this one, and it's like this blowout is over nothing.
Me on the moon!
Yeah, it's professional wrestling. It's so great, and it's also so sad at the same time. But yeah, all right. Well, let's talk about important things. Epstein. Let's just get.
I think I owe you an apology first.
Okay.
So I kind of got on you for like a couple of weeks about how Trump obviously isn't 007. Just fucking call it, Jamie. Seems like a lot of the stuff I was wrong on, because the Iran didn't happen. There's a lot of pressure on Trump to bomb the shit out of Iran. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
Whole Epstein thing's coming up.
And, I don't know if anyone else noticed this.
Trump.
Kelly.
That's what I'm saying, man.
R. Kelly, too.
I'm loving Trump at the moment. So.
R. Kelly got nabbed up by the feds, too.
But it is very significant because it's the NYPD that's clearing this up. And it looks like Trump might have the Department of Justice in the NYPD, because it's the NYPD that got Epstein. So.
Well, you have to... the thing I try to remind people is you have to remember... Like, there's all the little sayings like...
That's exactly what the whole QAnon was about, was Epstein's Island, Epstein's the spy, Epstein's the controller, all the handlers are linked to this. And then you had the next scene kind of hint as well. And he was talking about next scene the day before it got busted.
Well, and there is the saying too, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. And I think that's the thing with, like, Bolton and some of these sort of super pro-war neocon characters, is Trump is like, I'm better keeping them at arm's reach and keeping an eye on them than...
He can only take on one battle at a time.
Huh?
He doesn't want battles on all fronts.
Yeah.
One battle at a time.
Yeah. But I mean, because even I watched him, as he was boarding Air Force One or something, talk about Bolton, and everyone's like, hey, but Bolton wants to go to war. And Trump was just like, well, I get the final say-so, fuck him. Like,
he was calling him mad as well earlier on.
Yeah.
But I just wore mad. I'm not. Just the whole thing with that. I've been looking at Epstein.
Well, I didn't realize either. Even We Are Change came out and said, even No More News, which is very critical of Trump, but they've all been having to admit, even in the original case, Trump helped the investigation against Epstein.
The only person that would help.
Yeah. So
I think they called around. They had 300 people or so they wanted to talk to, and out of that 300, Trump was the only person willing to talk.
Yeah.
And not only talk, like behave the top cooperative.
Yeah. Well, and I forget who said it, but it's basically like, this is like Dante's Inferno, and you have the circles of hell, and Trump was invited into like the first circle, and got a look at
Yeah,
it
this
and
is what
was
I read.
like,
This goes back to the time of Arkansas and that who was that plane runner guy? I keep forgetting his name. Uh, Tom Cruise dude. Barry Sills. It
yeah,
goes all the way back to the Barry Sills days. It looked like when Bill Clinton's brother was doing all the dodginess with the cocaine running, he was also having like big parties with underage girls. Looks like Trump had a couple of these girls, the 14, 15, then figured it out, and that's where the cooperation probably came from. And it looks like whatever was done, those girls don't have a problem with Trump anymore, and Trump's learned a lesson. So I think it's quite brave because it is going to come out about Trump, like a lot of dirt is going to come out, but it's going to be nowhere near the kind of stuff. I think it might be a sign of bravery. Trump might be willing to take like a giant fall just to shut this all down. There's gonna be a lot of embarrassments with Trump, but nothing to the degree of like fucking kids and abusing kids and child sex trafficking.
yeah. I mean, this whole thing, they're saying it's basically the House of Cards. The Clinton connections and all of it just keep getting deeper and deeper. And
Well, where it seems to be going at the moment is the lady Maxwell, because her dad is obviously Robert Maxwell, who was MI5 Mossad, and he controlled quite a lot of media, especially certain countries. And then her sisters, a lot of her sisters were into like the creation of the internet, and a lot of the science that he funds, like he funds lots of projects in Harvard and stuff. It's all about like AI, how to program humans, how to create feedback loops, how to manipulate people via media. And that's all it is all the way through. It's just very MK Ultra based. The sisters she's got, they all married scientists that all do this stuff. And Polly, the amazing Polly, whatever her name is, did a great video linking it all the way back to the founding of. It seems to go all the way back to the 1930s. This seems like Epstein might just be not just a spy and blackmail, but
well,
maybe
yeah,
finding subjects which can be used for MK Ultra purposes. Because they even say in Harvard it's hard to find human subjects, this kind of thing and stuff
well,
like
the
that. It's
thing
really creepy stuff in there.
that's the thing that I had
Like
heard
I'm
is
not
that,
doing a good job explaining this, but it's all mind science. It's all about tapping into the brain remotely and all this kind of
I
stuff.
I
And
haven't
Epstein's funding is through the hills, and you realise that he's got a lot of very close links to this.
see
And
I
maybe the Clinton thing is kind of like that is to blackmail to keep you away from the Wizard of Oz, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't seen too much of the whole mind control, mind science aspect of it, but the whole idea that Epstein is basically like, you know how they were doing the whole like political blackmail, two-way mirror video, evidence of a politician fucking a kid so you can control them. I've been hearing a lot of the blacks. Epstein was basically an operative for those programs. So like, get a video of Bill Clinton raping some bitch, and then the deep state can control Bill Clinton. The other thing that's interesting is everyone's asking,
Yeah, it's
where's
worth
he
looking
getting
into
his
the
money
Epstein
from?
the Epstein Foundation. Well, that's it. It looks like someone gave him two houses and a plane, and the rest of it is from these science foundations. And all the science foundations are all MK Ultra based, like on steroids. Like it's not even like hidden. Like when you start looking at the programs and what they're trying to do, it's all about deprogramming people, reprogramming them.
Well, that's even the whole thing about that Christine Blasey Ford thing. Her ties into all of that weren't even
Yeah,
hidden.
with the hypnotherapy and the false memory
False
syndrome.
memories, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like you
And
almost
then
wonder
Nexium,
like if
it
like
seems like Nexium seems to be exactly the same thing, but more Hollywood based. Nexium seems to be way bigger than Epstein, but it seems to be exactly the same players, exactly the same leads, going down the same kind of rabbit holes. But it's not, and then you get R. Kelly getting picked up. You've had maybe five big busts in America for child trafficking, like five big ones, like 50 arrests at a time, about five of them. You had that other famous child killer getting caught in America. You had, yes, it's definitely.
cleaning house.
Epstein's not going to get much for charge by looks at though, which is a bit weird. Acosta stood down over it.
Yeah,
Very good
I saw
idea.
that. Yep. Well, and the thing
I don't
I
think he's guilty of anything. I think he is obviously a sideshow because, yeah, he let like Epstein off, but you don't know what situation he was put in. Like, it wasn't him running the child trafficking. It
that's
wasn't him.
yeah. That's
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 the
the
thing. It's
thing.
like you don't. Like law is a messy thing in the States, especially when you're plea bargaining and
Well, and a lot of it, it's like, again, to go back to that Wizard of Oz analogy is, unfortunately, we don't have just one person behind the machine. We have a machine behind the machine, which makes it even worse because it's like it's the deep state basically. It's like this is people have called it the military industrial complex, but it's even I don't even like that term because military involves, like, when people think of military, you're thinking tanks, you're thinking, blowing
yeah, well,
shit
that
up.
was back in the day, but now
Exactly.
it's
Now it's the
psychological warfare,
exactly that was what I was leading up to. Is it's the
controlling society and
silent
steering
weapons for quiet
society,
wars.
cybernetics. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
instead you have this deep state psych sex operation basically running things, and it's like, and it's not even that. It's like, the whole thing. Like, we also had this week, we had a plane with like billions of dollars worth of cocaine get caught coming into the
Oh, the
country.
J.P. Morgan.
The
Yeah, a
J.P.
billion
Morgan plane.
dollars.
And it's
A
like that's the
billion
other thing
dollars.
that's coming out is like even the drug running into the country, as much as we've known it through like Gary Webb's work and, like you were saying, the Arkansas thing and all that, but it's like,
Yeah, well, this is probably the black op money. Like that, how much money they're going to lose with that? It could be like, how does Trump get rid of the CIA? The same way he gets rid of ISIS.
yeah, cut
Cut
off
the
the
funding.
funding. Yeah, cut the funding.
You don't
Definitely.
need to go to war with them. Just stop feeding the monster.
Yeah.
And because like the ISIS would just go to war with itself, and the CIA will end up just fighting itself. It
Yeah.
always does. They'll end up just stabbing each other in the back. But $1 billion, yeah, I forgot about that. The J.P. Morgan.
Yeah.
That's just incredible.
And then that's what it really is, where it's like a, as
But like people are like, I thought we're on my wavelength. When I'm talking about Trump, it's still like they're just distant again. But what about grabbing by the pussies and insult to all women? And it's like, are we still doing like?
Are we
Oh,
still doing this? Yeah, yeah. Definitely know the feeling with that. And it's like even some of those things, like, I don't know. It's so ridiculous. Like, I hate to bring it back up, but that was the reminder I got basically when my mom's friend wanted to talk politics, and I laid everything out, like any point she could make. Grab him by the pussy. Oh, well, some women are groupies. If Brad Pitt or Elvis Presley or anyone else said this, everyone would just be like, yeah, that's groupies. It is what it is. But instead, Trump says it, and it gets turned into this upward. Now, here's an interesting bit. I don't know if I brought this up to you. My mom came to me a few weeks ago, and she said, Jamie, I saw this news thing about this technology. It's really scary. I said, well, what is it? She said, she said it's this thing that can analyze your voice, and then you can speak into it and it will play back in whoever's voice it analyzed. And I'm like, oh yeah, vocal printing. It's like a thumbprint for your voice. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's old news. I said, if I watch military tech stuff. I said Adobe was going to start selling that years ago, and it never went
it's
to.
available to the public now. Yeah,
It
that
is,
thing.
but the thing is it's old. Adobe had it years ago, and they were gonna put it to market, and I don't think they did. And my guess would be because the Pentagon came to them and said, "You're only gonna sell it to us. Here's a blank check." Now it's long enough now that other people have figured it out and everything, because you can't show it off in a tech show and then never put it to market and expect someone else to not figure it out and put it out on their own. So now it is available, and you also have the face scanning things where you can make people's faces look like they're saying these things. So people have speculated for a while, because the grab 'em by the pussy tape, audio forensic experts have said it sounds doctored. So I'm telling my mom this, and I said, Mom, I said, this technology, it's been around, the people in power have had it, this, and that. I said, audio experts have said that grab 'em by the pussy tape sounds doctored. I said, what if because that came out at a very specific time period and stuff like that. I said, if that was them faking Trump's voice to say that, I said, and he came out and said that at that point in time, everyone would call him a liar. Everyone would think he's crazy. But it's better for him to just say it was locker room talk, whatever, than to try to tell you about some technology that you don't even know about and make himself seem insane and everything like that. So he just has to roll with the punches. I said, but people have been speculating that's what that tape was from the beginning, but he'd look insane if he came out and said so. And she was just like, I never thought about that. I said, again, if they're just putting this out in an app for free for now, you better believe that every other more important purpose has already been gone through, used, planned for, etc., etc. Like, but yeah, now common people are aware that this stuff exists and they're fucking terrified of it. And I just wonder how many.
I'm glad, because I mean, that's why I've been ignoring the news. Like, ever since, it's like nothing seems to be real. Like, you can't establish if anything is real.
See, and that's
now
that's
out,
that ties into
like,
my
everyone's got to
professional
be on that
wrestling thing.
wavelength now.
That ties into the professional wrestling thing, where even like I was saying, Nancy Pelosi and AOC are at each other's throats, and it's so very professional wrestling like, where it's like, and it's even Jesse Ventura said that when he first got into politics, two people would be out on stage, I'm coming for you, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna end up blah 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 blah, and then next thing you know, they're at each other's barbecues over the weekend. So it's like, I'm always very sort of speculative as far as like, is this real? Are they at odds with each other? Are they just playing this up? Is it a work? What's going on here? But yeah, it really seems like, I don't know. I know Trump is going to win the re-election though, because it's, with this Epstein thing and all that, no competition.
Yeah,
and I have to say, he's so smart for doing this all now, because even like how you were saying for weeks, where's the wall? Where is this? Where is that? And most presidents fall back during this time. Most of them are just like, I'm not going to rock the boat too much because re-election is coming up. And Trump is just like, I'm sending this bitch.
Right, yeah.
I'm sending this bitch into overdrive.
It could be like a conspiracy tinfoil hat, and he goes, well, it's Bohemian Grove, so all those fucks are like just in the woods, and then Trump just like bang, 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 just
right?
Knocking them.
Yeah, clear
when
house.
They're like weak. You want to go and fucking worship Molech in the woods? Well, I'm gonna fucking bust Epstein.
Right? Yeah, that's so funny.
Oh, Kelly obviously doesn't get an invite for obvious reasons.
I just think it's like that one, when I saw that one and I saw it was the feds going after R. Kelly, I'm like, this is the icing on the cake. Like, Trump is just like, who's a scumbag that we've been letting off the hook for a while? Oh, yeah, R. Kelly, get him. Like, oh man, that R. Kelly one was too great.
What's going to happen with the Epstein then, do you reckon?
I think it's gonna be a while. That's what I think. I really think there's going to be mountains of evidence that
and maybe Trump's going to play Israel like a boss, because you've got the elections coming up in Israel, and like he stuck his embassy in Jerusalem, so he could be like, I can now pull the strings to get something way much more reasonable in place that isn't Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, here's
like getting Mossad spies in jail like Epstein.
Yeah. Well, you know what I thought was very interesting too is like, I saw a thing recently. I was unaware of this. The Koch brothers, who are the sort of infamous, like they are the right-wing equivalent of George Soros, right? They're now working together with Soros. Because as Bernie Sanders used to say, open borders is a Koch brothers conspiracy. So you have the Koch brothers have now teamed up with Bernie Sanders. So as it's that two sides of the same coin thing, where it's just one side coalescing against Trump and all of that. Now, the thing about Israel where it gets kind of dicey is, you have Kushner, Ivanka. But in actuality, you know, you sort of wonder how deep do those blood ties go, because they've been a sort of subversive element to some extent. I mean, they help out and they do good things here and there, but it's also very, like, there's things where they're meeting with top liberals and Democrats and being like, oh, don't worry about this, don't worry about the border, we'll keep it this way, this, and that. And it's like, you just wonder how much is he willing to compromise with them in his ear, being like, oh, do this, do that. Like, you know, like the bump stock ban thing. People have said that that's actually a lot more infringing on the Second Amendment than a lot of people made it out to be. So, I mean, it's not all good, but, you know, it's, again, we're talking one man against a superstructure that has just been in place for so long at this rate. We're, like you're saying, from the 30s onward. And it's like, from the 30s onward, and then Operation Paperclip, we brought in all those Nazis.
Jack Parsons.
Who knows what NASA really is?
Jack Parsons isn't like a million steps away from Epstein, bro. I'm telling you. Like, I might do a podcast on it if you want, but it's like 3 steps away. You're talking Mrs. Maxwell, her 2 sisters. They married those guys that started rocket engineering.
Doesn't surprise me.
It took over from Jack Parsons, and Jack Parsons thought, oh, NASA's bullshit, bro. I'm gonna become the next Aleister Crowley.
You know what else I think is interesting, and this ties in stuff we've covered way back.
So, and the other thing is, Marina Abramovich is like in between both NXIVM and this Epstein stuff.
Really?
Yeah, Alefantis is turning up all the time because he does art for them, does art studios for them. So he's connected to the NXIVM. It's just like everything we said at Pizzagate.
Yeah.
It's fucking true, man. Okay, the restaurant is could have been a setup with those folks. I mean, but Alefantis is fucking telling you, bro. It's part of this. Like Marina Abramovich, she's cancelled her art thing in New York. She had some big art thing going on in the next couple of weeks. She's like pulled the plug on that.
I really think
I heard the Clintons have pulled their speaking arrangements.
Well, like I've said, I've thought for a while the pizza place was a front. Like, it's a money laundering operation. Now, that doesn't mean that it isn't frequented and occupied by scumbags. Because, again, like, if you have a money front like a pizza place and you're a pedophile tied in with a whole bunch of pedophiles and you happen to know a band that's full of them, well, then, yeah, you'll book your buddies at your money front pizza place. And, you know, maybe they'll let the cat out of the bag and say something, but like I've been saying for a while, I think the pizza place is a money laundering front, but I think, you know, everything Alefantis is accused of is probably true. It's just probably not happening in that building. Like, is that tied into it in some way? Yeah, but I don't think it's as cut and dry as people make it out to be. Now, like we've said about the live art and the museum things and all that offers some loopholes where I think there's, you know, I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying the claims aren't true. I'm just saying the location of where they're taking place is elsewhere. And even if it was the pizza place at one point in time, there's too much heat on it for them to continue. You know, it's one of the things actually that's funny that I was telling a friend about when Trump was talking about the Iran deal. I paused the clip and I said, you know, let me set this up for you. I said, you've seen the show Gotham, right? You know, it's based off Gotham City pre-Batman. I said, think about it.
Trump's just tied that all up. Like, even Luke Radowski's praising Trump right now.
Yeah, I know. Well, but I said, look at it like this. I said, all of these factions are different warring gangs and mobs. I said, and listen to what he's saying with that connotation. Like, there's Trump and his faction. There's Iran and their faction. There's Obama and his faction. I said, and he's coming out and he's saying, well, you know, Obama's deal, he's sending them boatloads of money and he doesn't even get to check their weapons supply and this, and that. And, like, he's listening to all of it through that lens now. And he's like, oh my God, you're right. It is. It's gang warfare. It's like a bunch of warring gangs. And now every time where he's hearing news clips, like whether it's Pelosi and AOC, they're like, yeah, the House Democrat caucus is, you know, beefing with AOC and the new, you know, progressive coalition and this, and that. And he's like, warring gangs. That's all. It's all it is. It's gang wars over and over and over again. I'm just like, yeah, that's, you know, when you strip away all of the pomp and circumstance, and you just see it for what it is. They're talking about running guns, running drugs, weapons, you know, boatloads of money, and all this other stuff. It's the Bloods and the Crips over and over again. The Reds and the Blues. You know, it's so funny how it's like you have average everyday people seeing it as this one thing where it's like the president should be prestigious, and it's like, what, the president that just sent a fucking Boeing jet filled with money to the Iranian government and he doesn't get to check their gun supply? Like, this is prestigious? Like, come on, get the fuck out of here. We're talking mobsters and gangsters.
Yeah, well, the best part of the show is time for the British accent time. Because Tommy Robinson, Jamie. What about Tommy Robinson?
Oh, God, I don't even care at this point. But let's get into it. You know what the thing is like...
That's the only reason I called in.
It's like, I feel like you have just sort
British
of like...
accent, please, Jamie.
I can't even. It'll come out at some point. When I have to pretend to mock someone.
You're getting quite good at it.
Yeah. I used to date a girl with a British mom, so I heard it a lot when I was younger. But you know, it's like, I don't know. You have put such.
If it's not real, he's a genuinely great actor because he looks like he's shitting himself.
I was gonna say, you have put such a question mark over this man's head in my mind that it's like I just don't know. Like I said, I can't tell what's an op and what isn't at this point. We're in the upside down. That's what it is. Speaking of which, just real quick point I wanted to say when we were talking about the Parsons and all that. There's an article about, and a friend of mine did.
Yes, Tommy was generally was what I was saying here. So now they're like, oh, we're finished with Tommy now. And
yeah.
Tommy's just figured it out.
Well, what?
It'd be a great way to get. I'm sorry to be like manifest it, but it'd be a great way just to get rid of him.
Well, just
Tommy died in prison.
Hold on, just quick thing, because I did the Stranger Things reference with the upside down. A friend of mine, I was showing him a video which didn't really put it forth very well. I told him they should check out our old podcast when we had talked about it. The thing with CERN, where the scientists are basically, I don't know if have you watched any of the Stranger Things series?
No, maybe I should.
You should. You definitely should.
I watched like the very first episode and just didn't get into it.
It's all about creepy government scientists, mind control experiments, trying to give kids superpowers through abuse and like all. I mean, it's very MK Ultra science, NASA type stuff. But one of the things is you have these scientists tearing a portal into reality, and it's letting in all of these demonic entities and stuff. And there's a news article recently being like, you know, the portal in Stranger Things, scientists are trying to open it basically. And it's like this whole, you know, what's seen in movies and stuff like that being brought into reality. And I'm like, yeah, that's what they've been saying they were doing at CERN all along. They're saying they see...
What's the wordplay? Do you reckon science came from seance?
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, they're saying...
Definitely, at least Google it. We've got to fact check it.
Oh, I'm just sure it is. It's all fucking...
Seance.
Yeah.
Seances. What would you call someone that does a seance? A seance-tist.
But it's, you know, I just, at this point, all that word stuff, I believe it. Once I saw the whole thing about, you know, the... Iran, Aryan, and the whole like redhead lore. I'll tell you, even that's another thing that people are not digging deep enough into. This whole thing with Ariel, again, her name is Ariel, as in Aryan. The redhead thing, like, it ties into Islam, ties into all that, and everyone's just like, oh, they're turning the redheads black. What about the gingers? And I'm like, there's a mystic aspect to this Aryan thing that's going, like this removing of the redheads out of society, and it's like no one knows the lore of them. Like that Buddhism was started by a redhead, that Islam, redheads are seen as sacred. Like they're
really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'm safe then.
Yeah. There's very deep lore as far as redheads and the influence they've had, especially coming out of...
Is that why you get so many ginger ISIS members?
Yeah. Yep. because the Muslims view them as sacred. And again, Buddhism, people think it was started with Orientals, but no, it was started with redheads out of Iran. Iran is basically everyone equates redheads with Ireland, but it's that Ireland, Iran, Aryan, Ariel, like it's all in the wording of it, and no one pays attention to that, but the phonetics have a lot to it. So when you come to me and you say science and seance, I'm just like, yeah, it must be. Like, signed off by me. It's fact. My facts don't care about anyone's feelings or anyone else's facts. So that's just
we live in a post-truth world now.
Yup. So I'm making it up as I go along. But yeah, so I'd check out Stranger Things because it mirrors what they're trying to do with opening portals and dimensions and all, saying they see entities in the machines and all that shit. You definitely would get a kick out of it. And now that there's 3 seasons, we could do a breakdown on them if you wanted. But anyway, back to Tommy Robinson. Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I really don't, because here's the whole thing is like...
He was genuinely crying on his way to court.
Well, because I think there are Muslims that genuinely want to kill him. Like, useful idiots, never underestimate the power of useful idiots.
Reckon his handlers have thrown him to the lions?
Maybe. Well, let's look at it like this. You know what tends to happen in these situations? You have handlers who find someone that they can use for a position or a role or something like that.
Who have the right intentions.
Yeah, they have the right intentions. The handlers are like, we can
community behind them already.
Use this person, and then they put them in a position of influence and power and everything like that. Now, we've seen this with the laundry list of Middle Eastern dictators. We've seen it with Hitler and different European leaders, and then when the power and influence gets to that person's head, they suddenly become unhandleable or unmanageable basically, and then the handlers are basically like, you're stepping out of bounds, you better get back in line. And then when they're like, I don't need you anymore, I have my own, influence and power and all of this stuff, well, then the handlers throw them to the wolves, and, that's the bridge is burnt, basically. And, I mean, that's what could have happened, like you're saying. Are they throwing Tommy to the wolves? Maybe he wasn't supposed to run for office. That's my guess.
Thinking the same.
Maybe he, was trying to do a bit too much.
A bit too big for his boots.
Yeah.
And his job's done now anyway.
Yeah.
I guess.
Now, one of the interesting things, I'll bring it up and get your take on it. And this little bit of information came out of the Owen and Nick Fuentes squabble, but I guess it ties into, some of the theories we've thought about Tommy, is Nick came out and said, I've been offered the trip to Israel. Like, the trip to Israel. And he was like, Casey Dillon hit me up. They were like, we could get you working for Daily Wire. We could do this. You could go to Israel, this, and that. And when he said that, it sort of threw a question mark over the whole rebel trip to Israel, where it's like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, in the same way these politicians have to take the trip out to Bohemian Grove, it also seems like there's a mirroring, like, pilgrimage to Israel where they're, like, getting some sort of offer. And I said, Nick at least makes it seem like he was like, no, I'm good. Like, and that was that. But it's like, I'd like to hear from someone who took that trip and what was offered to them, but I guarantee you that offer...
Ask my brother.
That offer comes with some caveats.
Ask my brother, I guess.
What, did Theresa May go with him, or?
That's what happened to my brother. He joined this church, and then he just, like, moved out without telling anyone. And then next thing we know, my grandparents sent him to Israel for a couple of weeks, and then he just came back fucking sorted. That's
weird.
Honestly the story of my brother, and then we just never spoke to him again, really. He just abandoned us lot.
Wow.
But yeah, then he was like, I'm not saying my brother's like dumb and like he couldn't have done it without that help. Like my brother's
Yeah.
obviously, it's not like me. Like he's super intelligent.
Well, I consider you intelligent, so if you're saying your brother's super intelligent,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, because Nick was even saying, oh, when I was in DC, Jews were offering me women and money and all this stuff, and it's like,
But what was my brother doing in Israel? Who was he there with? Like I can't really think who he would have been there with.
yeah,
Can't think.
I mean, it seems from what I've
No, I should
seen,
have asked my parents. Like, or maybe I should ask and go, oh, when Nigel went to Israel, what the fuck was he doing? So all we know is he came back and gave me a chessboard and then he was gone. So,
yeah, I mean, it's
and then he went fucking weird.
seems like a beautiful place, but I don't know. There's something odd about the whole thing with, media figures being offered it, and then, there's some sort of deal being brokered.
Yeah, well, as soon as my brother came back, he quit his job, became self-employed, and just skyrocketed.
Wow. Yeah, that's you gotta
With
wonder.
no mistakes, no problems. Buying house after house, cash after cash.
Wow. And then, brushing shoulders with Theresa May and all of that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and we don't actually know like what he does. We know it's computer programming, but
Well, data is an important thing nowadays. Like I even, what's interesting is I was listening to a clip of the Joe Rogan show, and they had Charlemagne the God on there, who's a hip hop radio personality, and you had this other guy on there who I've seen him on his own podcast and guest on different shows. I'm not sure. I think he's a stand-up comedian. But he was saying how he's doing a tour, and he basically was going on this tear about how Ticketmaster, he's charging $40 a ticket, and then Ticketmaster charges $16 in service charges. So the guy is like, what are these service charges and fees? Like, Ticketmaster is adding 40% to the ticket price. For what? He said, so they're obviously making bank. He said, and then they're collecting all of the emails of everyone who's going to the show. And Rogan and the other guy were like, yeah, but you can choose to like not opt in to having Ticketmaster email you stuff. And he said, yeah, but that's Ticketmaster emailing you stuff. Like, you don't want it to be like, oh, we know you bought a ticket to Joe Rogan, so Ticketmaster thinks you might like Led Zeppelin. Here's their upcoming dates. They're like, but if you were like, would you like your email going to the person you're buying tickets from? Well, then people might be into that. But he was like saying how Ticketmaster now is bought venues where they own Madison Square Garden and all these other places, and they're basically monopolizing the ticket buying process, the nightlife process, and everything else. And Joe Rogan was even like, yeah, Ticketmaster manages my whole tour. They're, setting up the dates at their places, handling the tickets and everything. Like, it's like a monopolized system that you have to either work with them or you can't work at all in some of these scenarios.
I can bore you to tears, but I'd love to talk about it. But when I used to talk to Prince's band, one of the things that Shelby asked me, like that sinner, she goes, "I don't mean to be rude, Paul. How come you always had a really great seat at the show? Like you had really good seats, and then you were at every after show. Like I'm guessing you don't have like a proper job. Like how did you do it?" And I told her how ticket sales worked. I said, I just learned how ticket sales worked. And then I think that's why Prince changed his system. Because, shall I tell you what Ticketmaster do? It's
He's
really,
like, keep
really
this
dodgy.
scrawny British Jew out of the front rows.
No, because she wants to know, because I was like, it's not, it's when, because she doesn't get it when people complain about tickets. She gets a lot of complaints about
Yeah.
tickets, nosebleed seats. And it's like, well, this is how it works. So Ticketmaster own these other sites, like getmein.com, frontrowseats.com. So what they do is, even though, like, let's take Prince out of the equation. Let's just pick
Yeah,
somebody else, because Prince is his own enigma. But let's say Bryan Adams.
Okay.
I think Bryan Adams would struggle to sell the O2. So if Prince is doing 21 nights, or Bryan Adams is going to like a couple of nights, what they need to do is, nobody wants nosebleed seats. Nobody wants them. So what they do is Ticketmaster will shift all the top seats, all the good ones before they go to getmein.com, and that's when the seats hit £2,000. And people go, look, Prince front row seats, £2,000. The reason they're £2,000 is they want to sell them last. So what happens when the general sale goes on for Ticketmaster, they can say block X, seat 1120, where you need binoculars, is the best available seat when they first go on. So that's how they get rid of them. They have to get rid of make sure no one can get their hands on the front row seats, the very front row, or any decent seat. So that will go to the Get Me In crowd, where people have to pay extortionate amounts, but they don't sell. What happens is once you get nearer to the show, people will start dropping their prices
Let me
massively,
tell you something,
or
Paul.
just start selling it back to the venue and back to Ticketmaster. So when Michael Jackson, no one wants block 118, but on the first day, that is the best available for a couple of months, because all the ones have gone into their sister sites. So what you've got to do is you have to sell your own tickets. And that's what Prince did. He made you queue. He would announce the show on the day in London from now on, and you have to queue to get a ticket. And you could be queuing for 12, 15 hours.
Let me tell you. So this summer...
'Cause that's the only way he could fix it.
This summer, I was like, all right, every summer lately, I hit up, mainly because there's a local division that brings in big Mexican wrestlers, but I always hit up a professional wrestling show lately. And there was one coming to the Civic Center by the big company, and then there's the smaller indie guys. And I was looking at both of the events, and I was like, all right, well, the big company has Finn Balor, who's a guy from Ireland or the UK that I really like, and I was like, let me check out the tickets. And I was like, oh, the only tickets left are like the far off bleacher seats. I was like, all right, so let's not do that. Let's go to the smaller indie show.
You want to wait till that.
Well, hold on, I'm getting to that. I was like, so
maybe a couple of hours before.
You're spot on. So I'm like, all right, well, the indie one, before this other company starts their TV deal, they're loaning out people, so let's check that out. There's a handful of the Mexican guys I really like, and a few others, so let's get tickets to that one. It's cheaper anyway. So I bought those tickets, thinking this other one only had shit tickets left. I get an email. Now, this show is Monday. I get an email on Friday being like, the show's this Monday, get your tickets now. So I'm like, wait, when I checked, there were only a couple of shit tickets left. What are they talking about? It should be sold out by now. I go and pull it up. There's tons of good seats available suddenly. 2 days before the show. Ringside seats. And I'm like, what is going on? And it has to be exactly what you said.
Yeah, because the people are panicking.
They sell out the shit seats first.
Yeah, that's why I said to Shelby, she's going, yeah, that was my joke, because the show was £31.21. I go, I pay £31.21, Shelby. £31.21. And she's going, you're not paying like £1,000, £2,000 a seat. I was like, no, everyone else is around me. Like, I get asked that all the time. And I'm like, no, I got a ticket maybe 3 hours before.
Wow.
Just keep searching, and I get a ticket. And I said, I've got like 5 tickets to get here. I progress up because I'm a nice ticket tout. I'll buy a ticket because I'm going to go anyway. And then I try and upgrade it as the show gets nearer. And if I get a great seat, I'll either just gift that seat to somebody. I'll just go on a Prince fan site and go, oh, does anyone want a seat for just what I paid for it?
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
And then if I meet you at the show, I'd like to get me a beer or something. And that's how it works.
Yeah.
I do it. I also ticket tout, like if fans are begging, like I do go on Prince forums, and if I see someone begging for a ticket tonight and they seem like a genuine fan, I'll make them an offer. I say, look, it'll take me 4 hours to get you that ticket. It's £31.21. Will you give me like, I don't know, 150 quid if I get you 2? Or 100 quid? So I make, a little bit of money. 'Cause it is a couple of hours work. You have to keep looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was there every single night, mate. And then I think that kind of conversation is the conversation Shelby would have with Prince. And the very next time he came to London, he was like, fuck Ticketmaster. Like, you get a stamp on your hand, and then you either use that stamp for queuing, or you queue.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
If it's raining, it's raining, bro. And that gets that's the only way you can get the fans in.
and it's probably, you know, it's probably the only way they can sell some of those shit seats, because like I said, I chose a completely different event just based on like, well, I could
Yeah,
sit
I
sit
don't
in
want
the
to be like
bleachers at the one, or
blasphemy, but
sit.
even if Jesus came back, he would struggle to sell the O2.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
big
because you
venue.
know, like I was saying, it's like I chose a different event because I could get better seats at that than, you know, trying to get the bleacher ones for this other one, and then 2 days before the show, next thing I know, all the seats I would have liked are available. And
Yeah, I
it's
always see
like,
it all the time. It's like people want to go to a concert and go, I went online and a decent seat's 2 grand. How are people paying 2 grand? It's like only not many people are like, just wait.
yeah. Yeah.
No one's gonna pay 2 grand to see Beyonce, trust me.
Well, and I'll tell you, even
I believe it, I know Prince is different. I do believe people did pay 2 grand
yeah.
for that, but
Well, yeah, because it's like a bucket list thing. Like I've said, you know, the one I would love to see Janet Jackson. Like I don't like, and there are times where I've been like, I don't have hundreds of dollars right now, but she's one where, you know, especially as she
shit,
gets
you should have said I
older.
had a signed book from her.
Huh? Do you?
I, no, I just sold it. I just had it.
Oh man.
I would have given
Yeah,
it to you.
she's the one where it could be like, you know, if I knew it was coming in enough time and it was like, oh, it's, you know, gonna be $500 a ticket, I'd be like, whatever, I'll find a way. Like I want to see her before she stops, if she ever does. But that's one that I would
Yeah, she
pay.
had some book out, so she did a book signing.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I was gonna collect. I'd gone through stages of collecting autographs and not collecting autographs
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
selling
you'd
autographs.
mentioned that.
As
But
long as you can prove it's 100% real, because with that you get a receipt from the bookshop.
yeah,
It is a first edition. She was there at that time, like it's got the date and the time on the receipt. So, but she did a lazy autograph with it, wasn't a good one.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that's obviously genuine.
But yeah, I've always loved her because she, you know, she had the two guys from the time doing a lot of her production, and then
I
she,
remember the only song I knew was when she did that one with Nuno Betancourt. I'm a big Nuno Betancourt fan.
I mean,
It
she,
might be called Black Cat or something like that.
yeah. Actually, you know what's interesting? I just found a Russian torrent website that had a whole section of the stems of different tracks, like the recording sessions, and I got the ones for Black Cat. That was
Yeah,
that
that's
was
Nuno Betancourt on
that was one
guitar.
of the only Janet ones on there. They also have the, and I had these before, the tracking for Michael and
Nuno
Janet's
Betancourt
Scream.
was that More Than Words guy next Extreme.
Yeah.
And to get the funk out.
Yeah, they had those. They had the tracking for Scream with her and Michael. But Janet, see, Janet I always liked because she was that Prince sound coming from the two guys that were in the time, and then, or in the Revolution, one of them, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Um,
I didn't
them,
know that.
yeah, yeah, a lot, that Janet album, and even her most recent one, she had them produce it. But you know, it was basically an amalgamation of the Prince sound and Michael Jackson sound with a female singer. So yeah, I always loved her. Let me see, what band were they in? Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Um, Songwriting team, enjoyed number ones since Janet Jackson. Yeah, but which Prince band were they in?
It's probably the Revolution just as Wendy joined, I guess.
The
Just before
Time.
that.
They were at Fly
Oh, the
Time.
time.
Yeah. Andrew set up
Yeah,
Fly
I
Time.
mean, YouTube's a great time for Prince at the moment. They've just uploaded like loads of his concerts have just spilled, and that's the way to capture Prince's live. Like, he's just got everything from the 1980s to 2012. You know, it's really good. I've been binge watching it a bit.
Yeah, they were members of the Time. Played instruments on all but one of the group's 5 albums. Joined by Morris Day and toured with Prince. Yeah, those guys, I'll tell you, they, you know, that Janet album, even you got Slash doing solos on it and stuff like
I didn't know
that. And
Slash done that. Right, it doesn't surprise me though.
yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. That Janet album, it was so pop, but so raw and kind of gritty. And, you know, even Michael, I'll tell you, Michael's Invincible album, if you listen closely to that, there's a lot of like glitchy, choppy EDM stuff that is like huge now that he was doing back then. I mean, because he was.
That's why I keep telling people with Prince, the idea of having a drum machine and recording over the drum machine, doing your own, that's Prince.
Yeah.
A lot of dance music came from that, just having a very simple drum beat. A lot of the drum beats that you hear were the same kind of setup. Prince had the same effect on the snare and the. But yeah, really actually using a drum machine to create a pop song, I think you got to go back to Prince.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Prince kind of started that sound with the gated reverb and all that, like, big, and then the two producers from the time, they brought that sound to Janet. A lot of early Mariah Carey stuff had that sound with that, like, big kind of, like, it's that roller rink kind of pop, early 90s, like.
The idea of not having a live drummer was probably a brand new thing.
Yeah.
Programming in a bass line with, like, step sequencer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, man.
Yeah, but I mean, some of that Michael stuff on that Invincible album, like I said, it's things you would hear nowadays.
I'm a big Michael Jackson fan. I still haven't listened to the Invincible album.
It's and the weird thing is, it's so funny. Even his recordings that came out afterwards, there's one song on the songs they put out post his life where he starts out. It starts out with a voicemail, and he's like, "Yeah, I got this idea for a song where the beats are gonna go, and it's gonna be like, and like then you just hear the guy take the voicemail, loop it, and then build the song around what Michael was singing out, and then the song comes in, and a friend of mine was like, this sounds like everything The Weeknd puts out on the radio now. And I'm like, yeah, and it was 10 years ago. And that was Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was to music, Alex Jones is to the news. Where it's like, you can go to Michael and find it now, and then
I think Michael Jackson was more of an all-round entertainer, especially with the music video experience, the live dance aspects. And I think Prince lacked in the dancing and wanted to keep up, lacked in the music, lacked in the overall, but music and musician-wise, it was always Prince.
Yeah.
And I think Michael was as musically gifted.
Michael
Jackson was more all-rounded.
As far as an entertainer, yes. Yeah, as far as an entertainer.
I think songwriting, Prince was just in a different league.
I would even say Michael as musically as instrumentally limited as Michael is. Michael is an amazing producer because a lot of the songs he would sing them out and he would be like, I want it to be like this. That guitar part, a little more accent. Like he was very like a composer or director of the whole show. Like that's as an entertainer. That's
what you need. Like now he'd be considered a diva or a control freak, but that's exactly what you need.
But that's how Rick James was. No, not Rick James. James Brown, because that's who Michael modeled himself after. James Brown was like that. I've seen documentaries on James Brown and the background bands. God knows how.
If you get notes wrong and start adding your own blend, they're gonna get.
Oh my God, he had a hand signal for "I'm cutting your pay." Like, if you hit a bad note, he had this hand signal where he was like, there's $100 off your check, bitch. Like, I mean...
Yeah, Prince did that all the time,
well, and again, James Brown, Prince, both Michael and Prince grew up looking towards James Brown, and that's why you have that...
You've got to watch that tour bus diaries thing by Mike Judge, whatever it was.
That's why you have that one video where James Brown tries calling Michael and Prince both up, and he keeps having to be like, Prince! And Prince is just looking like, you want me to move? You really?
Well, I think Prince might have been on coke that night.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, oh man, I love all those guys. They're all so great. And
you gotta watch the Mike, the Beavis and Butthead did. He did the cartoon series about the tour bus. It's about the Prince days.
I'll have to look that up. Yeah,
all the soul and bass, all the soul and funk bands.
I haven't seen that,
but I'll have a Western one as well, with all the Western music. And it just always ends in a gunfight every episode.
Man.
Every Western style ends in a gunfight.
I'll have to check that out. Speaking of this music stuff, though, and like
But it
icons
just sums
and
up. I know it's like, but it just sums up why America was so fucking great. 'Cause it was so wild back then.
yeah.
Actually, if it wasn't the funk bands being wild in there, I think it was like the Western movement just
Can
blowing.
can I tell you though? I want to go on this bit of a riff
It is the
here
Wild West.
about
It was.
you know what I hate lately, and it almost seems like it's a damning comparison because you now
You
have
had to be strong to survive in America back in the day. Now it's like land of the flag. Bro.
yeah.
It's not-
Billie Eilish. Are you aware of this new sensation, new pop icon, Billie Eilish?
No, I've got no idea. Man.
All right. Well, she's like this teenager who now part of me really admires her because it's just her and her brother who produce her music. It's very sort of experimental pop stuff. You know, it's very dark, especially with her videos. And she's one of those where she's controlling all this, her image, her videos, and all that. It's a family-run operation, basically. And she's huge. She's the biggest thing. Justin Bieber just remixed one of her songs. Now, what you have going on, though, because I guess, you know, we just have to compare everything to something, but this is now the second time I'm seeing a sort of progressive pop artist, I would say, and they're just saying, she's like the next Nirvana. She's like Nirvana. It's youth, angst, rebellion, Nirvana. She's good. Oh my God, this is her Nevermind. And all I can think is back a few years ago where we had We'll Never Be Royals, and everyone was like, Nirvana, oh Lord is the next Nirvana, Lord, and she put out a second album produced by Lena Dunham's boyfriend, and where did that little next Nirvana go? Nowhere. No one even knows she put out a second album. But it's because they build them up that they're going to change everything and change the world and the culture. And it's Nirvana all over again. And nothing happens. And it's like, now in this case, I feel really bad because, like I said, I admire Billie Eilish. There's lots of things about this girl and her creativity and what she's trying to do that I admire. And I like that it's her and her brother producing all of it. It seems very tight-knit and that knows how she wants it to be put across visually, audio-wise, and everything like that. But they are tacking on this, she's going to be the next Nirvana. And it's like they just don't understand. It's like that's not something that just comes out of a bedroom. Like, this girl lives an alright life in England, and she has this bedroom sound, and it's authentic, but, I mean, that's the thing that I think is so aggravating about it, is it's like, we're so starved for authenticity that the
fact it's made in a bedroom is all it takes to pass.
That the moment something seems slightly authentic, it gets
organic,
gets oversold as if it's about to start a revolution, and it's like you're putting the weight of the world like something that just, I mean, and here's the other thing is Nirvana's authenticity was born out of struggle and shitty situations and having
nothing.
That's
what America used to be. Like, you had to be strong to survive. Even though Kurt was this weak thimble person, this weak kind of character, he had to be strong in that, like, he had to be a tough guy.
Well, I mean, he had chronic illnesses and all sorts of, like,
yeah, he
issues.
Had to fight hard, man, to get there.
And it's
I think
like
everyone now just wants it on a plate.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, where it's like, you know, even and the music is so. And here's the other thing: Nirvana wasn't.
It wasn't about it. It was. I know it sounds corny. It was about three guys that really liked hanging around together, and you get that energy bus on stage.
Well, and the other thing too is, you know,
you have to have real musicians, and real music has to be a band. It's about a couple of guys, like. You know, people get on, people don't go on. So the whole relationship between the band.
Well, and here's the other thing, though, is Nirvana wasn't the first band doing that sound because they looked to other bands like Sonic Youth, Mudhoney. I mean, there were bands that they were covering that everyone thought the covers were Nirvana songs because they were so much like Nirvana songs because it was the bands Nirvana grew up around and with. But they never broke through the way Nirvana did. A lot of other Seattle bands, though, did. Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. I mean, you had a scene there that birthed a lot of those Seattle grunge rock.
I think what may have made Nirvana go was just getting Butch Vig to do that Nevermind album. It's great. That guy's genius. It's really
Yeah.
great.
Well, and even I'll tell you, Garbage is one of those bands where you can pull out their old records, and even some of that stuff
Yeah, that was really good.
sounds modern because you know they were doing stuff that was so creative that it sort of is timeless because they were using a lot of tech and stuff that, like you were saying with Prince and the drum machines.
I listened to Garbage's first album the other day, and it's just reminded me just how great it was.
Yeah.
Well, all the guitars very simple, but it's so well recorded and fitted in. Like all the every song had a crazy guitar effect.
Well, and even
And
like
crazy guitar layer, and it wasn't shreddy. It wasn't even like difficult at all. It's just like one note.
well, and what's the like even what's the one song? I'm Only Happy When It Rains when it starts out with that
Yeah.
reversed sound looping and stuff like. Or maybe it's Stupid Girl, but one of them starts off with this like reversed sound that's looping, and I mean a lot of stuff that's like modern beat making, but they were doing it back in the early '90s. Yeah, Butch Vig is a genius. But yeah, this whole thing about overselling these little pop chicks as the next Kurt
And,
Cobain.
you know, I was young, but I don't think Nirvana were as big as what people were making out until he blew his brains out.
Yeah, oh yeah, without a doubt, without a
I
doubt.
think people do look back a bit differently. Like it went huge. Like Teen Smells Like Teen Spirit was pretty big.
Well, and here's the thing: is their
But other
main,
than that, it kind of died down from
and the
after
other
that.
thing is their legacy is
And
gone.
also, Kurt was a boss because he came out of In Utero and he was told not to release that album because it was going to crash. He was like, I don't really care because it's the album I want to put out.
Yeah,
And it didn't. I don't think In Utero did that great. He
I,
had that dun dun hey boom boom.
yeah.
Other than that, back I think it pretty much flopped.
Well,
I
yeah.
don't think. I think people kind of laughed at his Unplugged when he first did it. It's only when it became his funeral that, like when he died, and that became his tribute. And
Yeah.
people really started like not taking anything away from the Nirvana, but
No, but you're right. It wasn't. Even when they were big, they still weren't seen
they
as
still weren't that.
mainstream. They
Yeah,
they
people
were.
going, oh, they were as big as Guns N' Roses. It's like, they had the potential, but they never got as big as Guns N'
Yeah,
Roses.
and that's the thing is
They were as big as Metallica. It's like,
it didn't go mainstream until he died, where it's like they were sort of seemed as these runts that we have to tolerate, like as far as all that stuff goes. I mean, some of the things though, where I watched recently, there was a show where they had to do what was that British show? Jules something.
Jules Holland, not Top of the Pops.
No, I think it
Oh,
was
Jonathan Ross.
I think it was Jules Holland. One of them.
No,
One,
it's Jonathan Ross.
one
They
of
do territorial pissing.
no, it was one where they had to do Teen Spirit, but they were told they had to pre-record everything.
Yeah, that's Top of the Pops.
Have you seen that footage where they're just
Yeah, that's Top of the Pops.
not
man.
playing and they're just fucking around and he's being like, load up on guns, bray. I mean, just mocking the whole thing. And and that's why the mainstream never fully embraced them while he was alive because they were like, this guy's a troublemaker. He's
Yeah,
mocking
you can't put him
us.
yeah.
You can't put him on
Every
TV.
time he went on British TV, he'll just smash his guitar out.
Smashing shit and mocking it. They put him on the MTV Awards. They're like, whatever you do, don't play Rape Me. And he's like, rape me. And they're like, what the fuck? Like, we just told him don't. And it's like, yeah, that's why he did it. Like, so yeah, it wasn't until he was out of the picture where, I mean, and I'll tell you, there's part of me where it's like, deep in my heart, I wish I could carry on my love for Nirvana into the Foo Fighters, but the Foo Fighters only did that one first album with like My Hero and all those songs.
Color and the Shape was a good album.
Yeah, that one was good too. But that was
But
the one
then
that
it
had
kinda
like
fell.
Everlong. Yeah, the first two albums had some good tracks, and then it just went right downhill. But oh my god, the guitar parts from My Hero is amazing. Like, that's so good.
That was the first gig I ever went to. Like the Foo Fighters, and Southampton's a little tiny, because Southampton's a tiny town where I live. No one really could give a shit about the Foo Fighters then.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they actually, Dave Grohl was willing to play ball, so they actually, went along and play nice and into the system, and they have longevity because of it, so I mean, good for them. I think it's interesting, there's some videos on YouTube, if you're ever bored and want to check them out, videos like songs about Courtney Love, like,
Well, she's gonna get. Her name's coming up with Epstein all the time.
Yeah, I saw she's tied into that. Good way to bring this
Yeah.
full circle, by the way. So it seems like we
There's
haven't
gonna be
just
a few names that
gone
are gonna
into a
be bit
movie
nervous.
tangent. You know what? You know what name I'm sort of surprised about is Kevin Spacey, because
Yeah.
I just sort of wonder, like, Lolita
Going to
Island.
Haiti with Clinton. Yeah.
Is it Lolita Island? Like, does Spacey swing both ways?
St.
or-
James's Island? Yeah.
Well, and one of the other things I've heard is
Did you see someone flew a HD drone at it? Got some great
No.
footage. You can see inside. You can see a tunnel underneath a giant tunnel.
Wow. You know,
Yeah, they got
I've
good
heard
footage.
rumors for a while about Bill Clinton actually being more gay than straight. And now, when everyone hears that, they immediately would be like, yeah, but he's raping mad women. Yeah, and that's the thing, he's raping them, he's hurting them, he's dominating them. So maybe it is some sort of like mommy issue that he's lashing out at these women over, but he actually likes boys. I don't know. It sort of brings that into question again when you're like, Kevin Spacey's tied into this. Kevin Spacey
Well,
is
mate, I think I don't want to
pedophile.
defend the guy. I think Bill is wild as fuck, but it's
Oh, he
Hillary
is.
that was running everything.
Oh,
And
everyone's
she is
known
really
that.
a witch.
Yeah.
She's like a hardcore witch.
Yeah, no.
Who was that Larry dude? What's that? I always forget his last name.
People
Larry,
have.
Larry Nichols.
Yeah.
Hillary, she's a witch, I tell you.
Yeah, he was the one that used to say she would go out to the witches' coven thing like once a month in California. Now, I told you the story, though, about the woman I had heard of from a person who was this person's friend, you know, was a spiritual advisor of sorts that Hillary took on and kept with her. And the next thing you know, she was drugging her and raping her. And this
And
woman...
then next him.
And then this woman confirmed that the same thing had happened to Christina Aguilera, which people had speculated about. And it was just interesting hearing all of this from someone who I know is unaware of all of the online conspiracies and rumors, but basically running off a list of everything I had heard in the circles of conspiracy and rumors and being like, yeah, Hillary is like the white woman Bill Cosby. Like, she is all about raping and then doing what she pleases with you. But yeah, this Epstein thing, it's going to be interesting. Because like I said, if Kevin Spacey is there, it sounds like there's more than just underage girls going on there. It's probably underage girls and boys and sacrifices and everything else.
I think have a look at just look at the Epstein Foundation and just look at all the science projects he's doing. They're all internet, artificial intelligence, how to change people's perceptions, how to manipulate the brain surgery, implant microchips into the brain.
Well, you would need
electronic wave
it.
frequency, pulse inputs for the brain.
You would need it because you know what my honest concern when I saw the thing about Epstein getting nabbed is that there is going to be a swath of dead teenage girls popping up. Because they would basically be like, all right, anyone that can attest to this, we gotta...
Yeah, especially when you see the FBI putting a sign up going, call this number if you're a victim. So
Yeah.
what would you do?
Yeah, I was worried that, you know, they would start tying up loose ends. Because again, it's mafia stuff. It's warring mobs. It's people with infinite amount of power and money and resources. And you really just have a few good men in a position of power where they can do something about it. And... I mean,
we could just be like I said, like nothing's real, and it's just enough as showpiece.
That's
just
true
carry
too.
on.
You know,
Carry
because
on.
the Me Too thing, for example, that wasn't real. Weinstein is
That
still
came up
making
next
money.
scene.
James Gunn is still doing his thing.
Seriously, the Me Too came up next scene, which is
Well,
very weird.
and it came out of CAA, that whole agency that represents Jordan Peterson and Hillary Clinton and everyone else. It was like a promotional campaign for a bunch of feminist garbage. I mean, I think it was planned way before Trump's election, and they were going to have Hillary be on the forefront of it as the president and have it be this big feminist wave thing. And they were like, oh, well, Hillary didn't win, but we can still launch this project. I mean, I think that thing was a very coordinated, you know, campaign, and that's the whole thing. People don't realize or know, you know, like, I hate it when I hear people talk about, and this again ties into the people not looking deep enough into things, where it's like, everyone will be like, oh, feminism was good, but, you know, third wave feminism, Feminism was started by the CIA. Miss Magazine was funded by the CIA. Gloria Steinem was part of the CIA. The civil rights movement was run by the CIA and communists. Like, all of these things that people are like, well,
And Edward Bernays.
well, it started out good, but it's gone too far. And it's like, no, it started out bad. It was bad intentions from the start. Like, Owen Benjamin did this one really good rant where he was basically talking about civil rights like it being a mafia protection racket, where he said you can't give them an inch. You can't ever buy into it. You have to be stern about it, because they start off with something reasonable, like, you know, segregation is bad. Why shouldn't a black person be allowed into this hotel? And it's like, okay, right, that sounds reasonable. Yeah, but now you have a dude in a dress in the women's bathroom watching a girl change, and we're saying that that woman no longer gets protection because now the protection racket is bought into the guy in a dress. And it's like, you know, same thing with abortion. Well, what if a girl was raped by her uncle and now she's pregnant, and incest and rape, and you're like, oh my God, that poor girl, she was raped by a family member. I wouldn't want her to have that baby. And now we're like, well, yeah, the baby was just born, but we're just going to club it over the head with a mallet because the woman decides she wants an abortion the day after it's born. And it's like, it's the same thing over and over, where you give them an inch and then they run it out to the extreme. Oh, gay marriage, you know, it's two gay men. It just has to do with taxes. Let them be together. Oh, well, now there's no boy or girl, and your 3-year-old boy should be on hormone treatments. And it's like, all of this, it's a protection racket, and you can't buy into it. Owen was so right about that. It's just evil.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this week with the Epstein thing. I really have. I'm not really buying into it though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good sign depending how much we get from it.
No, it's just one guy, just Trump. So I don't know.
I don't know. See, well, the thing is I think, you know, whether it's the FBI, CIA, or any of these, it's a lot like the police force, where politicians in general, I always say this, when you have these positions, you end up with two people in it. You end up with the people who genuinely want to do good, and then you end up with the people who want the power to abuse it. So, again, I think there's warring factions within all these agencies, and it's a matter of how much Trump can oversee and keep control over the situation.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's gonna get good.
But
well, that's it for me, man.
Yeah, let's wrap up.
Wrap it. You know it's not on YouTube, don't you?
It says it should be. I'll figure it out. It's
no, it never was on YouTube.
Restarting the whole thing. I don't know which channel it's going to. I'll figure it all out. So I'll download it from one of the other ones and repost it. But,
man.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, man. See
all
ya.
right.